Get up. You see, somewhere out there in the future, there's a version of you saying thank you for getting up. Because it's at this point in your life, what feels like the lowest, what feels like the worst, the most hurtful, the most harmful point in your life, you getting up mattered more now than it ever will. Because when you realize that this little stumble, this place that you're currently at, the future me is standing out there thankful that you got up today, you'll realize that getting up is something that you've done over and over and over in your life. There's never been a point in time that you've fallen and you said, oh well, that's it, I'm down, I can't get up. Because from the moment you were a baby and you saw all of the adults walking, you knew that you had to get up. But what you didn't realize is how many times you were gonna fall. How many times you're gonna scrape your knee, bump your hand, hit your head, whatever it's gonna be. How many tears were involved and you getting up every single time you fell. But you know what happened after you got up? You learned to run. And then you started falling wildly all over again. But you kept getting up. As an adult, you're standing where you are because of a product of watching other people run. You thought you were chasing dreams that had nothing to do with you. While we all need to walk and run in life, maybe the style of walking and the style of running other people are doing is not what you're here for. That's why you keep falling. So get up. The last stumble, the reason that you're on the ground, the reason that life feels like it's piling onto you is because there's a lesson in all of that, everything that you've learned before. You know, I think back to when I was a high school football player and someone fell on my ankle from behind just as they had a few years before, where it ended up me fracturing my ankle. As a senior in high school, approaching playoffs, I was on the ground thinking to myself, oh no, what will I do? But you know what I heard? Get up. In that moment in time, I heard my high school football coach communicate, yell at me, get up, you're not hurt, you can keep going. And as soon as I heard those words, I realized that the reason I was on the ground rolling had nothing to do with the now that I was feeling. Had everything to do with the past that I experienced that took me out of my football season before it even started. I thought I was back in the past reliving it in today's standards, but no, I just had to get up. See, that fall wasn't as bad as the last one, but it triggered a memory that made me think I was injured before I realized I was just fine. And just like that last injury healed and made my ankle stronger so that this time it wasn't fractured, I was now capable of handling the challenges that life had in front of me. I was now capable of someone falling on my ankle and becoming stronger. I just needed to get up. So as you realize what's ever happened in your life, your now is a product of every time you've gotten up in the past. All you have to do is remember the strength and the goals and the person that you are before that helped you get up to become the person you are today. Because me standing in your future, I'm talking back to you today, saying thank you for getting up today, because that is the most important day of your life. When you're at your lowest and you can get up and rise and still be your best in your worst, that's when you know you're ready for new heights. Every time you climb a mountain, there's going to be a valley on the other side. And every time you go down the valley, you may fall. You may feel like you cannot get up. But when you realize that next valley is still much higher than the valley before, there's no going back to that previous low. You see, today, you're at a new height, even when you're down lower than you've ever believed. So get up, keep climbing, keep looking up, keep standing up. Because your only objective is to go forward, keep climbing, keep striving, and keep growing. It's not that you're failing, it's that you're not growing. It's not that the pit in your stomach is saying, oh no, what's gonna happen tomorrow? It's that pit in the stomach is telling you that you haven't grown into the person that's ready to handle tomorrow. It's telling you that there's growth in the day, in the now, that you're ignoring because of the past that you've experienced, because of the person that you were before you got up today. So as you're standing and laying in bed, thinking, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna get up? Remember the previous you that got up the day before. Remember the old version, the kid version of you that got up every day. Get up over and over and over again. It's who you are. It's what you're here for. It's the mission, the goal that lives inside of you, greater than anything else. In fact, when that mission and goal is realized, you're going to realize that it's time to get up some more because there's more to accomplish. There's more on the path. There's more reasons to get up over and over again. Because when you get up, you grow. When you grow, you get closer to achieving the goals and the dreams that are inside. You see, when we drive past cemeteries, we've got all these crazy things. My kids tell me I've got to hold my breath. I can't talk, all of these things. You know what I hear? I hear someone already teaching them the fear that they have for themselves because they're afraid their dreams are going to die and be buried in that graveyard and they won't be able to get up. So I encourage you now, before your dreams die and get buried, get up and live those dreams. Get up and find a way to make your version of you that's in the future thanking you for getting up today. Take a moment to realize what that person is thanking you for. Take a moment to realize the strength that you've already have inside of you that that person knows exists and saying, thank you for getting up. I knew you had it. I know you have it because getting up is all you've ever done. That's what you're here for. That is who you are. And that is what makes you magical. Your ability to get up, regardless of the challenges that life faces, life offers, and life is throwing at you, no. Life is giving that for you to learn how strong you are, for you to remember the gifts and talents that only you have that can be brought to the world, that can change the world around you. Because when you decide to get up, there's a whole army of people watching and following and realizing that, wow, that person keeps getting up in the most difficult times of their life. Maybe I should get up. Maybe there's an army of people watching you that don't even realize that they're watching to see if you can get up. Because if you can get up, that means they can too. So find that strength inside to do whatever it is that's challenging you. When your back is against the wall and you've got no form of retreat, that's fine. That's just your opportunity to get up, get out, and live that goal, that version, the greatness that's inside of you. There's a voice, there's a passion inside that's trying to get out. The future version of you is saying, thank you for getting up and letting me out. I was tired of being bottled in that little cage you kept me in so nobody would see you. Get up, because the greatness inside of you needs to get out. Have a wonderful day. You're blessed beyond anything you could imagine. Keep getting up, because that greatness inside needs to get out. Why? So many times people ask you in life, what is your why? Well, I remember while climbing the corporate ladder, interviewing for a job with a director level person, and thinking to myself, man, this guy's got a really nice title, really nice job. That's my why. I want to do that. So I remember him asking me at the end of the interview, where do you see yourself in 5 years and why? And I looked at him and I said, I see myself in your shoes. I see myself as a leader, as someone that's here to teach, to mentor, and to take all of the skills that I've learned in my career and help spread that across an entire team or two or three teams to help grow the overall talent of that team to rise to a higher level. And he kind of looked at me and said, well, that's not what you're going to get. Puzzled, I said, well, as a leader, isn't that what your job is? He goes, yeah, that's a little bit of it. But what you don't realize is I go home stressed every night. I go home wondering if I'm healthy. I go home and I barely get to see my kids. I barely get to spend time with my family. But I love this job, so I do it every day. That's my why, is that I love this job. And puzzled, I looked at him and I said, well, I love what I do too. And he goes, yeah, but if your why is to help people, you're going to drown in your why when you get here. And I was really confused. You see, at that point in time, I really thought my why was to help people by way of being in a corporate job. I thought that my why was to make the world better, leading one team after another, growing to a higher level. But you know what I realized? That's not my why. My why is to make everything better around me constantly. My why is to grow into a better, loving, kinder person so that I can share that joy and that happiness with the world, especially with my family and my children. Because from the moment they were born, I understood what it was like to have a real why. Because my why is time and energy and pursuing things that I love to become greater and helping the world around me and becoming a better father, becoming a more loving and kind person. But that why is so different from the why of going and loving a job and loving a career and loving something else that is someone else's why. So while I thought I wanted to be the leader of a technology team, while I wanted to be the director of a technology team, I was very close at one point in time. But as I was knocking on that footstep of that doorstep of greatness to reaching that goal, I was walking in the footsteps, I was standing at the door, about to pull my hand back. It was all seemingly taken away. And I struggled to remember my why. For so many years after that, I walked away from trying to do what I wanted to do. There was a car accident that removed my capability from doing the job that I thought I was here to do, from the mission that I thought I was here, from the why and the vessel that was going to get me my why. And then I realized that was never my why. It never felt right. The motivation to do it after a few years became dwindled, and putting my feet on the floor every morning was harder and harder each day. Well, I was making a change around the small teams and people around me, and everyone was rising. We were all rising to the top, getting better. The challenge of doing it every day when the why ran out started to become troubling for me. And then when it was all taken away, all of my direction in life was lost, or at least I thought. And then my why started calling me back. It became a beacon of light in what was the darkness inside of what I thought where I was in life. What I remembered that life was happening for me because I was chasing someone else's why. I remembered going back to junior high, watching people ride back and forth to work on a train. I too was riding back and forth in a line of cars that might as well have been tin sardine cans taking us to and from the shipping factory. That wasn't my why. My why is inspiring, motivating, and helping people grow out of the past version of themselves into the future version of yourself. As I crawled through the darkest times, I started talking to people that felt like they were in dark times, that I showed, hey, look, where are you going and why? And when they found their why, they found a new version of themselves. And as I started to question that for myself, what is my why and why was it taken away? I realized that my why was nowhere close to where I was before. My why is in the here and now, in the growth that I can have today to become a better version of myself tomorrow. Because as I grow, I become more loving, I'm more kind, a better father, a better family man. As I grow, I become a more kind, open-hearted, loving version of myself that I didn't know existed before. The why, the who, the when may seem so confusing, but it's when you align with the love in your heart and you listen to the gift and the message that's inside trying to get out, you suddenly realize you've been chasing someone else's why. You don't want the fancy things. You want you to be great and allow that voice, that greatness inside become the truth by which you live your life. Your why isn't a mystery. It's the solution to the problem that you're ignoring in your life. From the greatness that's in your heart that you're ignoring, that business you want to start, that book you want to write, the YouTube channel that you want to start, the speaking engagements you would like to have, the why that you have in your heart is where you belong, not the why that someone else told you have to have. You know, we think that we have to go to school, go to college, get a good job, start a career, start a family, and everything's going to be perfect. We have never lived in more unsettling times where there's more separation rate, there's more broken families, there's more broken people struggling, lost, fighting for something that they think they have to have, but they're so miserable chasing that there is no reason to wake up anymore other than to do it because they have to do it for someone else, because they signed a contract with someone else saying that they will now be your why, and that is why you're getting up every day. It's impossible to grow into the version of you that exists without understanding there's a why out there that you're not chasing for yourself. So I'm asking you, why? Why are you doing what you're doing? Your why may not be the reason that you're chasing that job. Your why may not be why you want to be a director or a manager or a senior manager. Your why may be the lessons you've learned in the past compounded into a new version of yourself that you're afraid that has to exist, or you're afraid you have to change into. Because as you change and grow into those new versions of yourself, you're going to find that your why is so much bigger than the what you were working on before, the who that existed before. The why, the who, and where you're going to go and can go does not exist in the same place that the why someone told you had to have in the past. The butterflies you're feeling about waking up, living a why that you don't want to live, is the reason that you're stopping yourself from getting forward and getting out doing what you need to do. Realize that those butterflies only exist because you're not aligned with the true reason that's in your heart. And when you start taking a path forward and standing on the path that aligns with that, and doing the action that you're supposed to do, those butterflies are going to feel like a tailwind pushing you forward. You're going to feel all those butterflies leave your stomach and start flapping, pushing you down the road to your goals, to your dreams, to the version of yourself that exists in the future. Because when you decide to change, you start realizing the why that never made sense before wasn't your why. It was a why that existed for someone else to make them happy. Chase your why, chase your what, and live your when, because where you are today is a product of what you thought you had to have yesterday. So next time someone asks you, what is your why? Don't give a why or a what for someone else to make someone else happy. What is the why that exists in your dreams? That needs to be pulled out, that needs to be grabbed and yanked out of you, kicking and screaming because you're holding it back. You're stopping yourself from living your true why because you're believing in someone else's why that they've had to tell you. Don't stand in a why that exists because it's easy. Stand and live the why that's inside of you because it is you, because it's challenging, because it's difficult to live and achieve the version of yourself that truly exists. You see, you've become so comfortable in living in the why and the version that someone else has told you have to live that you now believe it to be your own. And it's going to be uncomfortable when you break those chains apart. But I promise the moment you say, what is my why? Everything is going to start shifting. And if you allow that shift to become the motivation to turn yourself forward, your why, your true why, and what you're here for, the who you're meant to be, the what you're meant to have, will all suddenly appear, and your path forward will seem like a bright light pulling you through the darkness in a place that you've never been before. Because your why, your who, and your when, and your what cannot be seen when you're living in someone else's house of why, in someone else's place that's defining your why and putting the reason for your feet getting on the floor every morning. When your why aligns with your now, there's a whole different version of you waiting to exist. Let that future you call you out of bed, because that why is why. That's the only why that I need. There's a why out there that's the future me, demanding that I get up every single day. There's a future me that's saying, here's why. Because I exist and you're stepping into my shoes. They're bigger than you've ever seen. They're wider than you've ever seen. That's why. Your why isn't who you were before. Your why is who you're gonna become. That's why. Because your family, the people that you love, they may not see who you can be because they're looking at who you were. Because inside of your head, you've already transformed into a version of yourself that they can't see yet. But that's your why. Stand in that truth. Stand in your why. Change your now and live your future today. Because somewhere out there, there's a version of you saying and screaming, this is why. Because I exist inside of you today. And you're just making one incremental step after another to come closer to me. Because I am why. Thank your future self for calling you forward. And remember to be your future self, thanking the past you for understanding that the now that you are today is why that all happened. Yeah. What is your why? Your why is calling you forward. But But are you listening to your why or stuck living someone else's why? Do you believe? Yeah, sure I do. What do you mean? No. Do you believe in what's inside of you? Of course I do. I'm standing here doing it right now. Well, that's a question that I thought I answered a long time ago. You see, the old version of me said, yes, I believe in me. I'm showing up, I'm waking up, I'm going through the routine every single day. But what I believed in was a version of me that other people thought needed to exist to be successful in the world. You realize that my belief in me was what other people believed in me. So I ask you the question, do you believe? Believe in what? That's the question. Do you believe in you? You see, if you put a list of all of the things that you loved in the world together, and all of the people, where would you put your name on that list? Where would you put your passions, your goals, the things that you love, that little voice inside that's telling you, here's where your greatness lives? Where would you put that on your list? Because if it's not in the top 5, if it's not number 1, 2, or 3, chances are your belief exists somewhere else on that list. And that's okay. If you're looking to raise a family and you're living for your children, putting those children above you, that's one thing. But I'm talking about the belief in you to be the best you can be, to reach the goals and the dreams that sit so deeply inside of your heart that you've ignored them since childhood to become what someone else believes you should be. I remember sitting back in my junior high classroom. I was lucky enough to see the train go by every day, carrying people to and from work. And in those moments, I realized I did not believe I belonged on that train. I did not believe that I should be going back and forth, shuttled to work like I was some tuna fish in a can, riding up and down tracks, like I was traveling from one circus stop to the next to perform in another town. It didn't make sense to me. I didn't believe that was for me. But as I got older, I listened to what other people believed was for them and started to think maybe that's what I should do. Because the dream that I thought I had inside didn't match what I was being taught in the world around me. In fact, the first time I saw a dream that I could believe in was the first time I saw Les Brown speak. See, I was lucky enough to grow up in a family, in a house where my father was always looking to strive to do more. And I remember one night coming home from school, being told to put on slack shirts and a tie, and I had no idea. I thought I was going to church. And I didn't want to go to church. I mean, what kid wants to go to church in that young age? But I thought I was going to church. And my father said, no, this isn't quite church. And I walked into a room and we sat towards the back because we just got there when we could. And a man comes on stage. And the first thing I remember hearing him say, you have greatness inside of you. And I said, this is not church. And I proceeded to hear Les Brown speak for the very first time in my life. And I knew I was hooked. In fact, I knew I was hooked when he told a story of being hired to speak at a plant that makes toilet bowl seats. And he said, how do I motivate people to make toilet bowl seats? And I listened to him explain the story of him believing in himself, that he could stand up and speak and motivate people that seemingly had nothing in common with him, until he remembered that the belief in his story could impact the world and the people around him to make them better at what they did. That is when I started to realize that's what I want to be. But I didn't believe. I didn't wake up every day wanting to speak to better someone, or at least I thought I wasn't. But what that sparked inside was a storyteller, someone that was able to look at the worst circumstances and see that was there for my growth, to be able to transition pain into growth, to be able to transition hardship into abundance over and over again. That was my belief. And I thought that if I could do that and work a good job and live my life, that would be enough. Unfortunately, that was nowhere close to enough. At some point in time, I was lucky enough to meet Les Brown, to shake his hand and say, "Thank you, sir, for giving me the inspiration to believe in me." And then I was lucky enough to speak in front of Les Brown and be critiqued, and then eventually be introduced by Les Brown for a speech that I gave. And in those moments, I realized I didn't just believe in the corporate version of me that existed. I was now living a dream that was created when I was a kid. I was now standing in a place that was so far from where I dreamed I could ever go that I thought I would never let go. I was standing next to a mentor, to a hero of mine that pulled me out of that back of the classroom, back of the seat, put me in the front row mentally and said, "I'm talking to you, young man. You have greatness inside of you." And every time I hit the lowest point, or what I thought was the lowest point, I remember hearing that voice tell me, "I have greatness inside. I just need to believe." And I remember talking to Les Brown after speaking, and he said, "Chris, you have greatness inside. I believe in you. You just need to believe in you." And years went by, and I didn't actually believe in myself. I told the story of how Les Brown once introduced me. I told the story about how that was the shining point of my life, and I learned to speak from Les Brown, and I was going to take that skill and go forth and be successful in the corporate world. You know, it's really interesting what happens when you open up a can of worms and you find out your true calling. All I discovered when I went back to the corporate world was that I could no longer exist and function in the way that I did prior to that situation where I got to meet and train with my mentor. Because all that happened was I found little rises up, and then I would get knocked down by circumstances and events outside of my control that really just couldn't do anything. In this particular circumstance, there were car accidents that gave me concussions that stopped me from working. And I thought, after the last car accident, I remember sitting there. My seat hit my head. It wasn't a very devastating accident, but I sat there in those moments, trying to remember what and who I was. But there was this voice. It was almost like the computer went off and it turned back on. And as the computer turned on, I'm saying, what am I going to do? And there was this voice inside reminding me, this is on the path to your greatness. Reminding me that life is happening for me in this very moment. This concussion, this accident that subsequently ended my career doing what I loved and thought I was there to do, what I thought I was placed on this earth to do, was suddenly taken away. But you know what was left? Belief in self. Belief that I should be transitioning into the next stage in life. But there is also the fear that comes along with that. The fear of jumping into the unknown. The fear of jumping out of the nest, having never spread your wings to see if you can fly. The reality is, you don't know if you can fly until you start cruising on the way down, extending those wings. Because you have been given the gift to fly when you choose to step into your dreams. You see, at that point in time, all bridges, all way of abandoning a path forward were removed. And since then, I've tried to avoid that. I've tried to step away and start other businesses, start other things that I thought I was passionate about. But each step, I was reminded that my gift is not to go chase and run away from the strength and skills that I have. It's to grow and become better. It's to believe that I'm here to speak. It's to believe that that little vision that was gifted to that young version of me, to say thank you for remembering that moment. Thank you for remembering the view of what it was like to look at Les Brown from that stage, because the motivation that he instilled in you that night changed your trajectory forward forever. Because when you decide to believe in you, there's nothing that's going to stop you from teaching, speaking, mentoring, and pushing others to grow, because the belief inside of yourself is so much bigger and so much grander than you allow yourself to feel. In fact, when you feel the butterflies in your stomach, hesitating because something seems scary, that's you just being disconnected from the belief that exists really where you're standing in the future. Allow the future you to thank the present you for taking action that allowed you to step into that future. Because I'm thankful to that younger version of me that decided to listen that night, to be inspired, to find a path forward that exists for myself. Because without that version and that moment of the little boy version of myself, there'd be no opportunity to grow into the version that needs to happen. So as you stand here and look at your life, understand that the belief in you will change your trajectory forward. Understand that there's something that's inside of you that's been speaking to you since you were a kid, that is your mission, your path, something that is inside that you're so good at that can change the world around you from the moment you start doing it. And yeah, you may not see money start falling from the ceiling in that moment, but you can feel the growth and the love in your heart, knowing you're stepping into your greatness. Knowing that if you believe wholeheartedly, there is not an obstacle that will stop you from reaching your goals. Understanding that the belief that exists inside is the belief that will carry you when there is no belief in the world around you. Trust me, your belief in you is something not anyone else can have in the way that you truly have it for yourself. So I ask you again, do you actually believe? Are you taking the actions that align with that belief? Because if you are, then yeah, you can say you believe. But if you're not improving every day and taking little small steps to get closer to that goal, to that dream, to that little version of you that needs to get out to be shared with the world, that's meant to have an impact, to change the world around you, where are you believing? What are you believing? When are you believing? Because there's a whole world of gravestones, a whole world of cemeteries out there of people that said they believed, but never took the action that aligned with that belief. There's so many people out there that are gone and buried with their beliefs still being held tight. Don't become one of those people. Become someone that allows your beliefs to be a thought that changes, that you cannot stop thinking until your belief system and your actions change to align with the goals that are inside. When you've got a dream inside, make that your belief that that's going to be your path forward. Because chances are, your belief that you're holding on to is a belief someone else had that doesn't align with the goals that you have for yourself. Keep believing, keep loving, keep finding the passion, the goal to carry on, to carry forward, to become a better version of you that exists in the future. Because that version of you is thanking you today, saying thank you for believing in me. Thank you for believing in that little person inside that's been trying to get out over and over again. Every failure was there to teach you that I was there trying to get out and become great. Every time you stumbled and fell but got up, it was me building greatness because I am your future. Your belief in your future, me, is how you're going to survive today. It's how you're going to grow through the moment. It's how you're going to grow through your past. Because everything that you go through from this day forward, have the belief in the future version of you that exists somewhere, that you're taking a step closer, incremental little steps every day, bring you closer to where you're going to go. So it's time to believe. Not only is it time to believe, it's time to get up. It's time to stand up. It's time to align with that version of yourself that exists waiting for you to catch up in the glorious abundance that you have attracted in this world, in this life. You're not here to dwell in misery. You're not here to be angry and upset about the past, making it more of your future. You're here to believe in your calling, believe in your abundance, believe in the growth that exists inside of you, is who you are and how you'll get to the next level of where you're trying to go. You see, if you can't answer the question, yes, I believe in me because I'm putting that best version of me forward, then you're not truly able to love and appreciate other people because you're looking at everyone else from a lesser, smaller version of yourself that you've outgrown a long time ago. Let go of that past, grow into your future, and thank your past self for doing the same to get you here today. We're all a product of our past. But if we allow that past to dictate our future, we'll never grow past today. That's the beauty of where your true abundance lies, is taking all of the lessons from the past and to give yourself a chance of changing and acquiring new lessons that project you into a future version of yourself that does not exist. To this day, I still remember a teacher from 8th grade saying, here's the number one lesson in life. Never lie to yourself. Because when you lie to yourself, you'll start believing those lies. Well, let me ask you a question. How many times have you lied to yourself about where you are? Telling yourself that you're successful when you're standing on the floor of someone else's house, of someone else's business, of someone else's worth that doesn't even align with happiness in your heart. Yes, you may be successful in someone else's world and someone else's dream, but is that success for you? Is that the success that's in your heart that's driving you to wake up every day? Are you waking up every day with excitement to put your feet on the floor, chasing the dreams that are in your heart? Are you resenting putting your feet on the floor to go walk into someone else's successful house and stand there and claim it as yours? That's the question you want to ask yourself. Are you living in your abundance, or are you living in the abundance someone else has told you that you can have? Because that abundance is never going to feel emotionally or spiritually correct inside. It's when you decide to trust and believe in you, is when you can take yourself to that next level. Wake up every day, put your feet on the floor with the belief of what's inside of your heart, not the belief in what other people have told you you have to have. Trust in yourself, trust in your belief, and know that the floor that you're on is just a product of yesterday's belief. Your belief is a thought you just keep thinking. Change your thoughts, change your belief, and take action that aligns with your thoughts, your beliefs, and your goals. And every day, one small incremental action will become a habit that changes who you are to the very core of your being. Find those habits and change who you are to align with your goals. That's what you're here for. That's your mission. So I ask you, do you believe? Because if you do believe, you're taking actions that align with the belief that you're holding in your heart, whether you know it or not. So ask yourself, what is it that I believe in?